I'm Brian Cooley, and coming to you from the hallowed halls of my house, as all of us have been this CES, of course, being a virtual show, as you certainly know by now. We want to wrap it up for you with a bow and do our best of CES. And joining me so capably is someone who has the rare honor of saying, from Hollywood, Ashley Esqueda.
I feel like I need to hire you to just record that intro for me for everything I do. From Hollywood, Ashley Esqueda. I'm so excited. I finally get to do Best of CES with you. And then it ends up being like this. It ends up being remote. But we do not need to be physically present with each other in the same room to celebrate all of the good things we saw this week at CES 2021. And the first all-digital CES 2021. It's been a weird week, but still
weird
lots
week.
of good stuff.
It's a show that's a little more compact and obviously completely distributed. It's not like part of it was in Vegas. This is not a hybrid show this year, as you probably noticed by watching our coverage, all of you. This is a purely virtual show. But we want to kick things off now and get right into our list. We've got about 14 picks for you. I think 9 or 10 of them are coming to market, and then we saved at the end about 4 that are still prospective. We're not calling them vaporware, but they're still TBD on delivery and price. Let's get started now with the device that became as a category anyway, that became the heart of daily life for so many people, the laptop. And in this case, our favorite was not the flashiest one we saw, but perhaps the most capable, the HP Dragonfly Max. What did we like about this, Ash?
You know, I think that everybody this year kind of realized, oh man, my laptop needs an upgrade. My computer needs an upgrade. And a lot of people found out that they had terrible webcams. And so HP really went out of its way to sort of make these upgrades. It's blue. It's a little flashy, but we won't say it's as ostentatious as some of the other laptops we saw this week. But it does have 4 microphones on board. It's got a 5-megapixel webcam, an IR camera. So you're going to have a little bit better audio and video quality, which is obviously something people are looking for now.
And what's so interesting is we were discussing this with some of our other editorial colleagues. The phrase kept coming up. It has a phone quality camera. Not too long ago, that would have been an insult. But now a phone quality camera is actually the gold standard. So that's kind of what you're going to find in that laptop and a few others. In terms of a very different device, and this is real, even though it may not look like it, LG showed off a rollable, extendable phone. So that doesn't crease and fold like previous foldables, but the screen gets bigger or smaller by unfurling and furling part of its display.
Yeah, this reminds me of the hidden television from CES's past, where it sort of it's got this hidden compartment where the screen retracts and then it kind of pops back out. I have been wrapping my brain around this idea for the better part of 3 days, and I can't quite figure out many more use cases beyond, okay, well, I wouldn't mind having something a little bit larger for maybe reading the news or checking out a magazine, say in like Apple News Plus. Like I would love to see a magazine layout or something to that effect on a rollable screen. To be able to expand it and then shrink it back down seems nice. But I don't know, Cooley, like, can you think of anything else that you would use this for?
Well, we were joking off the air. It's great for boomers who want to watch old episodes of I Love Lucy. You can turn this thing into like a 4:3 and not have a bunch of black space on one side or the other. But I doubt that's their intended market. I do think there's something interesting about the fact that it rolls and scrolls and doesn't project fragility the way I believe the folding phones do. And it's causing, I think, a lot of consumers. I'm not sure if that's going to be durable. Let's take a look at something completely out of left field. This is a smart ceiling lamp from Nobi. Aside from the B-roll we're about to see being a little disturbing, what does it do?
Speaking of the boomers, this is so interesting to me, but also, again, like you said, this video is a little disturbing. It appears that the lamp is alerting this nice woman in the blue shirt that he's a younger gentleman, so I would her husband, friend, spouse has fallen down and cannot get up to steal a catchphrase from as seen on TV moments of yore. But yeah, so this is a ceiling lamp that has sensors in it, and it's meant to help seniors live independently for longer. It can sort of watch for things like falls and then send out alerts to get out help. So, and then there's also, I'm curious, Cooley, like there's some monitoring activity functionality that I'm not 100% sure what that means. Like, is it just constantly watching you? Like what, Nobody's making a very interesting ceiling lamp, which I never thought I would say.
Yeah, she asks the boomer. Yeah, basically what this is going to do is do motion and object detection, as I understand it, in a simple way. And like you say, to tell if someone has fallen down versus just being in the room, turn on the light, obviously, to help them. But then I think the interesting part is the alerts and notifications. And we've seen more and more of this in the senior sector because, let's face it, a lot of seniors are aging in place. And that also means aging alone in place in some cases. I hear repeatedly from people that are watching the smart home market as analysts, they go, a little more attention could be paid to the needs of seniors because they have more needs and they have more money to buy gear that will help those needs than a younger consumer who may have very little of either. And speaking of smart home, Alarm.com came out with a touchless doorbell. This is just one example of a slew of touchless, no germs, no skeeve kind of smart home technology. How does this thing actually know to ring the bell?
So there is a doormat. That's sort of like you likened it previously to a home plate, a baseball home plate. And so it's you step up there, the doorbell knows that you're present. If it's a quick drop off, I think that so you stand on mat to ring doorbell. So it stands there. And I assume if you're there for a longer period of time, if it's not just a quick drop off, then the doorbell knows, hey, go ahead. I'm going to ring the doorbell for the person who's inside. But yeah, this is very interesting. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of this year. I think we're going to see doorbells like this from everybody. We're going to see them from Amazon and Ring, and we're going to see them from security companies like Alarm.com. They're going to be all over the place. Very, very prevalent.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is going to merge from a touchless revolution. But let's face it, we're probably not going to be as sensitive about touch and cross-contamination as we are now forever. But along the way, touchless also becomes convenient. Touchless is good when you don't want to get germs. It's also good when your arms are full, whether it's a faucet, whether it's a toilet handle, whatever it might be. So I think it has to move and morph beyond just being a germ story, or I think it becomes a very 2021 thing rather quickly. And we're going to talk more about a touchless bathroom in a minute, but first let's stop down and have a little bit of fun. We've seen table-sized electronic gaming products before, but usually they're video game platforms. This is an electronic board game platform.
Yeah, I really like this. So the Infinity Game Table was a crowdfund effort. They raised quite a bit of money. And they're starting off with Hasbro games. So you're going to see Sorry, we're seeing right now. You can see they're kind of scrolling through, looking at different games they can play. And it is also Wi-Fi connected. So if somebody else has an Infinity Game Table, anywhere else in the world, they say you're going to be able to sync up with your friends and play these board games from a distance, which I think is really cool. And also the price point is really compelling. It's $600, which is about the same price as an iPad, an off-contract iPad, a Wi-Fi iPad. So it's definitely something that I think a lot of people are going to be interested in. It is kind of large. So if you don't have space in your home, this might be a tough purchase. The legs do come off. It does seem to store pretty easily. But then I am also very curious if they're going to expand into tabletop gaming with something like a D&D campaign where you can customize your maps and have them sort of load them into this table. I think that would be a really great expansion on that technology. But overall, still really cool.
I think the best thing about it is that they have licensed legendary big name games that are classics as opposed to inventing their own games and nobody would care. That's key. The rendering of those games looks really good. They did a beautiful job bringing those games to life. And you and I were wondering why the screen is not a square ratio, because board games typically are more or less square, and they're using pretty clearly a 16:9, it looks like, maybe because it's an initial product and they wanted to grab some off-the-shelf panels, which I understand. My other thing I was thinking is, the popularity of video poker and video gaming in casinos. I don't know if they have any, pseudo casino games on there, but I suspect that could be a winner as well.
Great.
Let's go back to the touchless thing. Kohler had a whole bunch of touchless bathroom technology, from faucets to toilets. This is kind of getting into that germ paranoia thing that we have to. There's the lid going up all by itself. I mean, they're going beyond handles. They're going to everything in this bathroom being almost like you glide through it.
Well, look, I am going to just say right here and now that the United States of America has been lagging on its bathroom technology compared to other parts of the world for a very long time. And I'm so happy to see companies like Kohler really picking up the pace here. I mean, we've seen some pretty amazing toilets specifically from companies like Toto for a really long time. And so Kohler making this touchless bathroom experience is, I think that this is the type of stuff that we expect to see as a this is the future we all want to live in, right? Nobody wants to touch a surface in a bathroom. So it's except for my toddler, who apparently wants to touch every surface in a bathroom, but that's a whole different story.
I hope they get this right in the very simple part of its responsiveness. Go to an airport, go into the restroom there, but you're waiting for your bags. And I have never in my life, in probably thousands of interactions with touchless faucets, ever found one that didn't do the opposite of what I wanted. When my hands are under it, I get no water. When I pull my hands away, it gives me water. It's like it's playing whack-a-mole with me. So they've got to get that right. The bathrooms in our CNET offices here in San Francisco, the same way. You can't get any damn water out of these things because they are opposite of what you want. And the soap thing is the worst. When you're sitting there and you want soap, It won't give you any. You pull your hand away and it pees a bunch of soap into the sink. So they've got to get the responsiveness right. Okay, let's turn now to televisions. Everyone wants to know about TVs at this show. Two from TCL that represent a similar trend. The one that I'm big on is an 85-inch 4K television for a list price of $15.99. That is a price breakthrough, not necessarily a technological wow, but an absolute price breakthrough. And the other one, kind of a twin of it, is a Roku 85-inch 8K. So same size, but 8K res. Price is still TBD, but the smart money says under $2,700. What do you think about these two? Do people need these big of a television at any price?
I mean, I'm a person who needs the biggest television as cheaply as possible. So this is exactly what I want. I'm obsessed with TVs at CES every year. It's one of my favorite things to go check out. Cooley, did you ever think when you were a small boy growing up during the American Revolution that we were going to have TVs this big for so cheap?
I didn't think we were going to have TVs.
I'm sorry, I had to shade you just a little bit. I love you. But no, this is amazing because anybody who wanted a 4K TV for a long time, that price point was not attainable for a lot of people. And then we started seeing really inexpensive OLEDs that were 1080. Then we started seeing really inexpensive 4K TVs that were 55-inch and 65-inch. And now we're seeing this 4K television that is $1,600, which is amazing. And it's 85 inches. This is a massive screen. And that usually is the tipping point for the next generation of televisions, for the next resolution. And so to see that TCL is not only focused on getting an 85-inch screen television at that price point, a 4K TV, to the masses is awesome. But then to also know that their 8K TV is potentially not even going to be, or is going to be about $1,000 more than that. That's pretty amazing. And I'm hoping that means that the 8K tipping point will come a little bit faster when it comes to, getting these TVs in people's houses. And also the creation of that content. So right now, as you and I both know, you can't watch 8K anything. Like there's very few 8K.
Yeah, there's almost no content. That's what's interesting. And yet the good TVs upscale so beautifully that they do take advantage of their resolution fairly well. But I'm with you. This sets the table for by a year from now, here's my prediction, 85-inch, 8K, pretty much at $2,000 street price. And that's pretty cool.
Ooh,
just a year from now.
That's aggressive. That's
right?
aggressive. That's an aggressive, bold prediction, Cooley.
Let's talk about a very, very different display now. AR. I'm big on this company Vuzix that makes maybe not the flashiest AR glasses, but these latest ones they've made are moving us rapidly toward normalcy. They're still intended largely for a work or business environment, but the new Vuzix are called Nextgen smart glasses. You can see everything that they need is pretty much built into relatively slim temples, very ordinary looking rims, has a certain style to it. It's a slightly retro horn rim style, but that's great. It doesn't say tech. It says fashion eyewear. And these guys they do a really good job with these sorts of things to give you assistance and aids in front of your eyes. And also built in smart voice. I know they have Amazon. I think they might have Google built in as well. I don't recall there being a price announced on this. There may have been, but this shows that the normalcy of AR glasses might be starting now, and it's no longer something that screams, I'm a dork, but I want you to see what cool tech I have.
Yes, like that has always been, as a glasses wearer, that has always been my hesitation with these products. It's been, they just look so dorky and I don't want to wear them. Even something like Snapchat spectacles was a very tough sell for me, right? Where it's just, these things that have these little cameras on it. So this Vuzix, kudos to Vuzix for specifically deciding to go with a design that is very subtle and almost, dare we say it, kind of cool, kind of stylish.
Kind of retro cool, kind of 80s brat cool, right? Yeah,
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, so keep an eye on Vuzix. They have a sense of normalcy that I think is really good, even if they aren't the most ambitious, necessarily, industrial headset. Wrapping up,
but
with
I
the
think
things
we don't
that are
need that. I think it's AR,
exactly.
Right?
It's got to be basically useful before it has to be some kind of a space age technology that's immersing me in a new world. And by then you're into VR anyway. Yeah. Panasonic had something in the AR space also. They did an announcement. They're working with a company called Envisix, which has been on my radar for a while. They are a highly respected, I believe pretty young, laser holography company in the UK. And Panasonic is going to work with them to bring laser holography AR head-up displays to cars so that when you're driving, you're going to start to see the world out in front of you augmented, whether that's a hazard, whether it's a place name, whether it's a navigation direction, or whether it's a color bar on the road that says, slow down, you're closing too fast on the car ahead of you. All of this is long overdue. I'm very big on AR making total sense in cars where it doesn't necessarily make sense in other places yet. You can see the demo there. Here's a garbage can in the road, and it's alerting her on the windshield to avoid that. Here's another one about a hazard pulling out in the road. So this makes sense to me because it's all very much practical. And the reason I'm excited about this, it's not the only company doing it, is that this announcement puts together great tech with a company, Panasonic, that has deep roots in the auto industry. They build cabin tech and other technology for almost every automaker. So when they speak, automakers listen. So I look forward to this.
Yeah, this is, I think it's been a long time since we've seen the first AR HUD in cars. Like we see these a lot at CES. But this is the first time that it really feels like, because Panasonic is partnering with Envisix, it feels like this could be a groundbreaking partnership in the way of getting this technology into cars, even at the lower price points that most people buy cars at. And so this could be a tipping point for that AR HUD, which is really exciting for people, because honestly, there are so many cool technologies in higher end vehicles that we just haven't seen quite trickle down yet in a way that is real and tangible and usable by the masses. And so something like this is just fantastic. And I hope that it ends up in a lot of cars really, really soon.
Yeah. I think it's the next big wave of driver assistance. Is not necessarily things that alter the driving for you. Those are already deeply rooted, but now things that sort of provide superpowers to your senses.
Extras.
Let's move now to a little lightning round of our concepts. These deserve a little less time because we don't know if they're coming to the world anytime soon or not, but let's give them a little quick nod. First of all, General Motors announced a bunch of electric cars in a very big press conference, but aside from that, they also kind of did one more thing, rolling out it's not a flying car because it has no wheels. It is a personal transportation drone, and it's not the first company to do that. We've seen several others at CES from car companies. But there's something about General Motors releasing a Cadillac branded concept of a flying vehicle that just got a lot of attention. But what do you think of flying personal transport?
Okay, so I am of two minds on this. Obviously, the first part is, whenever I think of the future, I think of flying cars. I think of things like this GM VTOL Cadillac. Like, it's amazing. But there are a lot of challenges that still have yet to be solved in the way of making sure these things are prevalent and usable by the masses. I mean, obviously, there are things like, flight plans and launch pads and landing areas that have to be sorted out before anything like this is usable.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a real it feels like it's going to bring the elite transportation market down a little bit or expand it a bit, as opposed to
Mhm.
addressing anyone's common real world transport needs. And
Yeah.
that's fine. Pursuing that market is fine. It's not illegitimate, but I don't think it solves congestion as much as we are
Yeah.
told it will. I just don't see how it gets there.
This is
LG
this
rolled
is for
out.
Jeff Bezos. This is for
Yeah, this
Jeff
is for
Bezos to take from his volcano layer to Amazon headquarters.
LG had a transparent television, a TV you can see through while you are seeing it. A little mind bending. So you got to look at the video here. Now, it's not the first time we've seen this technology, but they're really expanding the use case in a COVID sense to say, look, you can have it at the foot of your bed like that. And it's a screen that lets you see what's going on, but also see through it and to what else is happening in your environment. But this is interesting. Here it is as a shield at a sushi bar. It's also your ordering interface, while being a German sneeze shield, while not being off-putting. You know, when you have a clear plexiglass shield at a restaurant, it just feels icky, like you're in a hospital environment. And I know we need them right now. But in the future, we might like to continue having them, but have them not be so prophylactic, but instead be useful and helpful. And that's what this does.
Yeah, this is very Star Trek. If you've seen Star Trek Discovery, you see displays like this. I got to take a tour of that set, and they are real transparent displays, which is awesome. This is the first OLED one, and if I'm not mistaken, LG Display is a different company than LG. Is that right, Cooley? Like, I'm pretty sure they're different companies. But this particular technology is absolutely the future. This is the type of stuff that makes CES what it is, and it is the thing that you see at CES and you go home and talk about to everybody who said, "Hey, how was CES?" You're like, "Wow, I saw this amazing OLED TV or screen," but it was an interactive, transparent display. I mean, that type of stuff is it's the stuff of future dreams, and I can't wait to have those things. Because they're non-obtrusive, like you were saying. It's if they're clear, you can watch what's through it. You can interact with whoever's on the other side or whatever's on the other side. But then when you need it, it's there for you. You can use it as a functioning surface, and I think that's really, really cool.
And it's got a certain augmented reality function that they're showing. I mean, it's a screen. It can be used for anything, obviously, but you see how they envision a see-through display as being an excellent AR thing. See automotive windshield. I just hope that the real one works a little better, because that one, if I'm not mistaken, was labeling the tip of Manhattan as Hollywood. So that wasn't ideal. Let's wrap up with one last product, which is an N95 active ventilator. This is not some fiber mat. Second to the last product. Okay, so hey, I forgot about a butler. Hold on a second. Keep that as the
We got to talk about my favorite robot.
Samsung Bot Handy. So why do you like it so much?
You know, again, when I think of the future, I like to think of the Jetsons. Everybody has the dystopia in their mind, and I think there are some elements of technology that make us think of dystopian futures. But something like Bot Handy reminds me of the lofty ideals of the Jetsons future, where you have a Rosie the robot type character. So it looks like it's on a Roomba. It's got one robot arm, and it's doing things like picking up after the laundry. It's pouring you a glass of wine at the end of a hard day. And it uses AI to figure out how much pressure needs to be applied to the thing it's picking up. And so this is, you see, it didn't crush that glass of water all over the place like an older robot might have done, or clumsier robot might have done. Look, it's loading the dishwasher. I mean, when can I get one of these in my house? I gotta have it.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is what you pointed out, is that it's got sensors and AI to figure out what am I about to pick up. So it's got material awareness, which allows it to be more dexterous with a piece of fabric or a flower in a vase or a heavy plate or a light, thin glass. And the other interesting thing is I was talking to our colleague, Megan Wallerton, one of the lead editors at our CNET Smart Home Center in Louisville. And she said one of the things she's hearing the most of from our users these days is that they say, great, smart home is great with light switches and thermostats and irrigation timers and all that. But I want smart home tech next that really cuts down the amount of labor I spend on everyday chores and cuts down the time I spend on laborious chores. And you've got to get into anthropomorphic robots to do that in many cases. You can't just have things that are, electromechanical. You've got to have things that are heavily mechanical.
Yeah,
right,
there's always that back and forth between virtual assistant in a smart machine and then also, like you said, this anthropomorphic, physically able-bodied robots.
Yeah. And that's a big difference. It's a tough nut to crack because of the ambition of that, but we see it get closer every year. Let's finish up with one more sort of a pandemic-inspired product, of which there were many here at the show, and this is an N95 mask, an active mask, but from a company that you would not normally associate with this sort of product. You associate them typically with gaming hardware. Razer is the company, and this mask is called Project Hazel.
Project Hazel has been the talk of at least my Twitter timeline this week. People are loving it. People are posting pictures of it. I think one of the things that this concept idea does right is that it's clear, it's transparent, as they just showed, so people can see your mouth moving, and that's been a really tough problem or hurdle for a lot of people who either need to read lips, who use sign language and lip reading. A lot of people sort of need that, or to smile at somebody for heaven's sake. Like, it's hard to smile at people when you're out and about now if you're wearing a mask. It also, obviously, it's like very cool. It's very sort of, cyberpunk, just again, the dystopian thing. It's like very cool. It's got the, lighting on it and all that stuff. It's got a silicone seal. So they're saying it's like very well sealed. I hope that something like this becomes a normal thing in the way of, like the way that we see countries use masks when it's flu and cold season. Yeah. I hope that we take some lessons from the pandemic forward, even after vaccines have happened, and we have things like this. But as we've discussed, Cooley, unfortunately, Razer has a lot of products they like, I won't even call them products, projects they like to announce that never see the light of day for the consumer market.
Yeah, Razer sometimes, I think, puts off more vapor than a pot of boiling water, but this is not that difficult to imagine. And those little pods you saw on the side, those are active ventilation pods. But again, nothing too hard to imagine being possible. I can tell you that I could totally imagine something like this being in my permanent rest of my life travel kit. I don't see ever getting on a plane again without a mask. I don't know about everywhere else, but I am never going to be on a plane again without a mask. Ain't going to happen. So this is the kind of thing I could see becoming part of living in my suitcase at CES. Unless I'm on camera, I would want this thing on, sure.